Hi, my name's Antony Hamilton and I'm the Artistic Director of Chunky Move. For the Australian Ballet's DanceX season, I've created the new work ABTA Response. Today, I'm really excited to share with you one of the techniques that I've used to create the choreography for this work. So this technique involves counting, and you're not counting in a 3-4 or a 4-4 or any other familiar time signature like that, but actually you're going to be generating your own counting patterns simply by writing a list of numbers between 1 and 10. So before we start exploring this counting system and as a method of making choreography, we do need to make sure that you're nice and warm. So just work within your own capacity. Of course, not everybody has the same mobility as everyone else. So any instructions that I can give you, just interpret them in your own way and work to your own body's capacity to do that. So just to begin by warming up, we're really simply just going to start with a really gentle bounce. So actually, we will do something a little softer before we start exploring the choreographic exercises that we're going to do. As you're here bouncing, shaking the body up and down, just gently engage with the lower abdominals. And you can do this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, as long as you want. And it's really going to just start to get the blood flowing through the whole body so you're ready to move safely. So just do that for as long as you want. Great, so we're bouncing, we're bouncing, we're bouncing, we're bouncing. We're getting all the joints really oiled up. Maybe think about your knees and your ankles, your wrists, your shoulders, your elbows and your neck being nice and soft. Once you've done that for as long as you need to, let it go. Just drop it all away, and we're going to start with something new. You're going to place your right hand on the center of your chest, your left hand on your belly, and you're going to start circling the pelvis. So we're going to think about spheres inside the body. There's a sphere inside my pelvis. There's one in my rib cage. There's one in my skull. It's almost a sphere anyway, so that's nice and easy. There's a sphere in my knee on my right side and my left side. A sphere in my elbow on my right and left. In my wrists, in my ankles, and in my neck. Now, moving those spheres, imagine that they're gliding around in different directions, engaging with each other, sliding and rolling. You're containing the energy by placing your hands on your body, warming the surface of your torso. Once you've done that for a little while, just let the arms go so that you can start to explore the sense of circular motion of those spheres with free arms out in the space around you. So you're constantly shifting the circularity of those spheres, and it's a free improvisation. There's no set movements. Keep those spheres moving and rolling. Now, this is a really nice, gentle way to warm the body to be ready for things that are a little bit more articulate and a little bit more specific. But I really like to warm the body with a lot of freedom of movement before I start to think about articulating with more specificity. Again, this can happen for a good 5 to 10 minutes. And you can start small and get a lot larger over time. And let that reduce back down, bringing those spheres back in to the center line until you find yourself easily standing again on your feet. Okay, so now we're going to return to our counting pattern. To give you the most simple expression of what we're going to explore, we are going to be improvising again, but we're really going to narrow down and limit the range of movement so you can really focus on the clarity of the technique. So in doing that, we're really just going to move one part of our body, our right arm. We're going to move it for 4 counts at a time, and every 4 counts, it's going to change direction, and you're going to look for a different pathway that the arm can move on for those 4 counts. So literally counting just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to repeat 4s. And each time I finish a count of 4, I move into a new direction. I'll show you what I mean. So just standing from neutral, we let the arm float away, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how the arm changes direction at the end of the 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it looks quite complicated. I can simplify that a little further so you can really see exactly what's going on. If we think of our arm moving on a very simple linear pathway, just a straight line, you'll see the clarity of those 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then all I'm doing is changing the direction now around the room. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I start to let it come to folds. 3, 4. Find little bends in the elbow and the wrist. Change direction every 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so the aim of this technique as an improvisation is to look for as many different pathways as you can find and become interested in the relationship of my arm as an isolated object in relation to my body. It can also sometimes seem a little bit simple, but it does very quickly get more complicated. So it's very good to just spend the time to just work with that one idea and become very familiar with all of those potential pathways that my arm can move on. So the next step of this is to actually alternate between right and left arms. We're going to maintain the 4 count structure. So we're moving on a continuous blocks of 4 counts. But we're going to actually start to articulate right and left and right and left. And what you'll start to discover is this potential for all these new arrangements of the arms in new positions. Here's a little demonstration. I'll try and start simply and then move into more complicated pathways. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's probably a few things you might be noticing while the rest of his body's moving. So yeah, the rest of my body is also moving, but my attention is really out here. So my body is always moving in relation to other things in my body, but my attention is really at these extremities. The other thing that you might notice is the complicated nature of the pathways. They're not always straight lines and they're not always very clearly defined. Sometimes the arm is folding and collapsing. Other times I'm then holding it in that position and I'm moving it as an individual unbreakable component of my body. So there are a few expressive qualities and subjective ways you can approach this exercise that allow you actually a great deal of creative freedom and expression in the shapes that you're making and in the pathways that you're creating. The other thing that is quite interesting, I find it very interesting, is that you get dynamic range by speeding up or slowing down your movements. And you speed up or slow down by changing the scale of the movement, because if your time signature remains the same, that's unchangeable. But what you can do is move a small distance for 4 counts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, or a big 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, big 2, 3, 4, small 2, 3, 4, big 2, 3, 4, small 2, 3, 4. So you can play with dynamic range simply by changing the scale of the movement. It'll make your movements faster or slower even though the time signature remains the same. Okay, we're going to try that one more time on both arms. But this time, this is quite complicated, we're not going to count in fours anymore. We will start with a 4, but then we're going to immediately follow it with a count of 3, and we'll immediately follow that with a count of 2. So you'll be doing 4 on this side, 3 on this side, 2 on this side. So first of all, let's just count those numbers in sequence and get used to that rhythm. 4, 3, and 2. You count from 1 all the way through each of those numbers. It goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So it's 9 beats across that sequence, which is why it can feel a bit uncomfortable for people. We're very familiar with pop music that is in 4/4. We love 8s as dancers and musicians. If we're coming from a sort of, popular music kind of space. So it is important to just get really used to unusual rhythms where your movements are being broken up in quite unusual ways. So 4, 3, and 2, we're going to alternate arms again. Here we go. I'll give you actually one round of the counting sequence as an introduction before we start moving. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay. So the complicated thing there really is about your concentration and being able to adapt from one side to the other. The next thing that we're going to look at is actually bringing in a third movement component to this. So we're now going to move arm, head independently, left arm, and then back to head. So what you're going to have a sequence of 4 movements, because we start here, 1, 2, 3 out here, and then back here 4. That's 1 again. Sequence of 4 movements, but a sequence of 3 separate numbers. So it also does something interesting, which is it phases out of time. You'll be counting 4 beats on this side, 3 beats here, 2. Then you'll be going 4 here, 3 here, 2 here. 4 here, 3 here, 2 here, and then 4 here, 3 here, 2 here. It takes 4 rounds to get back to the first number being on the first side. Sounds complicated, but you can rewatch this. That's what's great about video. You can go back and listen to that again and see what the hell I'm talking about. So here we're going to try it 4, 3, and 2, moving in a sequence of 4 separate movements. So introducing the head into this movement now. So here we go. Remember, we're improvising as well, so you don't know where your arms and head and your body's going to land. Let's give this another little turn. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. All right. Now, you'll also notice I'm dropping counts while I'm counting. You do run out of breath while you're doing this, but of course you don't have to count out loud if you're at home in your living room or in your bedroom and you're just having a go at this. No need to count out loud. Put your favorite musical track on and give these exercises a go. There is a qualitative aspect to this movement which you probably also notice, which is you are trying to create a very, very clear dynamic change from one movement to the next. So as I finish that movement, I'm trying to find a dynamic pulse, a very clear end to the movement that is then intersected or interrupted by the next movement. Head, arm, head, arm, head, arm, head, arm, head, arm. Now, finding that clarity of articulation is really not easy, but you want to think of the movement pathway that you're on being interrupted by the next. So you actually need to remain quite calm in the body in order for that to clearly articulate. Not easy. Spend some time practicing that and yeah, see how you go. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to create a little choreography out of this idea, which actually starts to move your attention to different parts of your body. Now we're not improvising and we're not simply moving the arms and the head. We will move the arms and the head, but we'll also have other indicators of movement pathways that we can take. So to give you an example, what I will often do as a choreographic method is I'll make a list of numbers that are much more complicated. They're longer sequences that I need to remember, or the dancers need to remember. And we can assign very specific movements to all of those numbers. And it is a really interesting way to make choreography, because in a sense, you're a little bit out of control of the outcome. As I mentioned, there is subjective choices that are being made about the choreography, but ultimately, you're filling in a puzzle of movements that is already predetermined by the nature of the instructions. So for example, we might say that the arm will move for 3, and then we'll turn for 2 counts. Then the arm will move again for 1 count, and then we're going to do a tilt for 2 counts. So arm for 3, turn for 2, arm for 1, I think I said, and a tilt for 2. So arm for 3 counts. Let's do 1, 2, 3. We're going to drift the right arm up in front of the body. 1, 2, 3. Now, we're going to turn for 2, I think we said. So it's a very slow process, but we try and figure out a way forward and we build a choreography as we go. 3 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Just recall that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And then we said arm for 1, I think. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. Okay. Tilt for 2 came after that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. All right. Slow process, but let's slowly build this. Let's repeat that again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. So that is just the beginning of how to construct a sequence like this out of numbers and assigned movements or suggested directions or particular body parts that you're going to move. So I've gone away and I've created a phrase from that material, starting with the sequences that I just showed you, and I will talk you through it right now. So the sequence that we're going to do is to write down these numbers. 3, 2, 1, 2, 4, 2, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, and 5. One more time. 3, 2, 1, 2, 4, 2, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, and 5. Now, next to those numbers, you're actually going to write a separate action or a separate body part that you're going to engage. So next to those numbers, next to the 3, we're going to move arm. Next to the 2, we're going to do a turn. Next to 1, we go back to arm. 2, we're going to tilt. The 4 is going to be a head movement. The 2 is an action which has been described as a crossing action, so a cross of some sort. Again, it's very much about your interpretation of what you want to do with that instruction. The 3 is a foot movement. 2 is a foot movement. Then we have a 2 again, which is a turn. We have a 1, which is an elbow movement. The second 1 is a hand movement, and the 5 is a twist. Arm, turn, arm, tilt, head, cross, foot, foot, turn, elbow, hand, twist. You've got all of that written down. Make sure you've got it written down, because I'm going to teach you the phrase that I've constructed from those instructions. But the thing to know is that your interpretation might be very, very different, and you can use those same instructions to come up with incredibly different phrase. For example, our first movement was arm. 1, 2, 3, turn for 2, and arm for 1. But you may very well want to go 1, 2, 3 with that arm, turn for 2 the other direction. You choose what a turn is in your mind, and then a tilt for 2. So I could have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, instead of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. Okay, so you get to reinvent the phrase material as many times as you want. And the fun of this process is the range of different versions that you can come up with this kind of technique. So let's go through this sequence that I've constructed from these numbers, and you can follow your script that you've written down if you get lost. So arm for 3, we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. 3, 2, and 1. And then there's a 2 which immediately follows that with the tilt. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. Okay, and then the head for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, that's incorrect. The head should go straight backwards. Made a mistake already. It's very hard to remember this stuff. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Tilt straight up. From there, we're going to cross. So my arms are going to cross this way. So my right arm moves across to the left, but I stay folded and tilted downwards. Okay. We have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Next is the foot. So I decided in this movement, even though the instruction is for my foot, I'm going to bring my whole body up as the foot comes in. I'm out on my left foot, and I'm bringing it back in as my arms come down. And then from there, I've got a 2 count for the foot as well, and I'm going to push the back one out, but as that comes out, arms are going to come up again as well. So I'm expanding on the instructions, and I'm taking my own subjective creative choices about how I want to interpret those instructions in order to sort of expand the potential of the movement that I'm creating. Let's do that much again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It's not as easy as it looks. I mean, you really have to figure out how to arrange the body to arrive at the time that the change in the music happens or the change in the beat sequence happens. So we'll do that one more time, and then we will continue on with the remaining 4 movements, which are turn, elbow, hand, and twist. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. After that, we're going to turn again. My interpretation of turn was to rotate my body to the right, but I also bring my arm around on a wide pathway this way. Okay, so back to here, 1, 2, arm comes around. The next thing is an elbow movement for 1 count. So I have to draw my left elbow back for 1. It's very fast. And then the hand for 1 count, I chose to move my right hand out to the corner in this direction. So I was here, I've gone 1, 1. Okay. That much again, and then we'll just get the very last movement, which is the last twist. Okay, here we go again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. You can see those ones really creep up on you. They're very fast. We're here for 1. The last is a twist, and I'm going to twist everything. So I twist my hands around for 5 counts. I twist my legs around, and I rotate my body around to the back so I'm all completely twisted up. And I reverse it. Okay, we don't actually reverse it. You can reverse it if you want, but that is the last step in the sequence. Let's repeat that again, and then we might pick it up a little bit quicker. Here we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so just for practice, it is quite interesting sometimes to see if you can loop the phrase as well. What would it be like to From the position that you're standing in, just begin the phrase all over again with a new front, a new direction. I'll be facing the back. So let's try that. Ready? We go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not easy at all. It's quite complicated. It takes quite a long time to develop the skills to move with that kind of speed, I suppose, and being able to jump from one movement to the next and one direction to the next. But that is basically the technique. Even though this particular phrase might seem a little bit complicated or a little bit challenging, keep in mind that as an exercise, it's a really fun tool to use because you, of course, can define your own choice of movements. They don't have to be the ones that I've set, but the game, in a way, is to really exercise the brain and the body to work together to try and compose something that you can remember and you can actually sequence one movement after the other. It's a really fun thing to actually share with kids as well because they have a lot of fun trying to be honest, it is actually a little bit like Twister, you know? It's got that game component to it where you're actually inventing something and your body's being like pushed into these positions which you don't really know where you're going to go next. So be guided by the framework of the counting system and the organization of those choices of movements and see what you come up with yourself.